Did you know that David Ortiz used to be a Seattle Mariner? It's true. This is a list of 7 players that you probably didn't know were Mariners at one point in their career, or maybe you just forgot. There's even a few that surprised me on here, and we'll get to David Ortiz in just a minute. But first, I want to start off with our boy Nasty Nestor Cortez. You know, that nasty Nestor Cortez, the one that pitched for the New York Yankees and pitched to a 2.44 ERA in nearly 30 starts. Yeah, he was a Mariner once, and really not that long ago, just 2 years ago even, he put up a 15.26 ERA in just 7.2 innings. Really the only thing I remember about Nestor Cortez in Seattle was him trying to do one of his funky windups and Albert Pujols taking him deep and watching that ball sail into the night. In 2019, actually, the New York Yankees traded Nestor Cortez to the Mariners, and he pitched in just those 7 innings with the Mariners and then re-signed with the Yankees in 2021. And then, of course, Nasty Nestor went on to do what he did this year, and in a lot of years, he probably would have been considered a Cy Young. He was also one of my favorite people to watch at the All-Star Game, so there's always that. For quite a bit of time, Carlos Gonzalez, also known as Cargo, played for the Colorado Rockies, and at the time, he was one of the best players in baseball, but as he got older, he really started to fall off. Well, in 2020, Cargo had signed a minor league contract with the Mariners, but unfortunately, he never saw any actual time with the Mariners in the regular season. He played in spring training with them and was one of the guys they were looking at in the outfield, but that's really as far as it went. And interestingly enough, Cargo actually played really well in spring training. He hit 273, 360, and unfortunately with the Mariners and the season being delayed in 2020, they just did not bring him on. Cargo is definitely one of the guys on this list that really surprised me to remember that he even played with the Mariners. And another former outfielder that also I honestly forgot about playing with the Mariners was star Jason Worth. Yeah, you remember Worthquake? You remember that weird looking like Sasquatch guy out there in right field for the Washington Nationals? Yeah, Jason Worth was a Mariner at one point, but similar to Cargo, he also had only played in the minor leagues. The Mariners signed him on March 27th, 2018, and honestly, he didn't really play all that well, although he almost got promoted to replace a hurt Mitch Haniger at one point. Apparently, when he was with the Mariners, Jason Worth also pled guilty to a DUI when he was arrested in April while he was training with the Mariners, so yeah, that one really didn't work out. Someone that I often forget was also a Mariner is Freddie Peralta of the Milwaukee Brewers. The Mariners actually had traded Freddie Peralta, but he had signed with them out of the DR. He played in 3 minor league seasons with the Mariners in 2013, 2014, and 2015. But 2016 is when he got traded over to the Milwaukee Brewers. And you may be wondering, okay, which trade did the Mariners send Freddie Peralta in? Because Freddie Peralta is really, really good. And before I tell you the trade, yeah, Freddie Peralta is really good. It would be nice to have on the Mariners now. The Mariners traded him when he was just 19, but with the Brewers this year, he had a 3.58 ERA in just 78 innings. He put up an ERA plus of 110. Back in 2021, he had a 2.81 ERA with an ERA plus of 147, striking out nearly 200 batters. So yeah, Peralta would be fun to have right now. And the Mariners traded Freddie Peralta along with Carlos Herrera and Daniel Masaki for Adam Lind. Y'all remember Adam Lind when the Mariners also had Mark Trumbo and Logan Morrison? I remember Jack Zarenzik running around trying to trade for every first base DH type in the world. Morrison, Trumbo, and Adam Lind were all on the team at one time. Obviously, Adam Lind wasn't that big of a deal for the Mariners, and trading Freddie Peralta really hurt in that trade. Of course, this kind of reminds me of the Adam Jones trade when the Mariners traded for Eric Bedard, but we won't even get into that one because everybody knows that one. One of the best catchers in recent memory in MLB was Jason Varitek, and believe it or not, he was also a Mariner at one point. He was drafted 14th overall in 1994 by the Seattle Mariners. He was in the Mariners minor league system from 1995 to 1997, where he was then traded to the Red Sox, which obviously is where he made a name for himself. Now, the Mariners had traded Jason Varitek and Derek Lowe for Heathcliff Slocum. Now, Heathcliff Slocum wasn't really that good in the end for the Mariners, which was a big shame, and the Mariners traded Varitek and Derek Lowe for Slocum, and both of them went on to have really good careers. In his career with the Red Sox, Varitek hit 256, 341, 435. And the Mariners could have really used that behind the plate, although they did have a guy by the name of Dan Wilson. Still, it would have been nice to have had Varitek as well. Rickey Henderson is somebody I forget about a lot that used to play for the Seattle Mariners, but it's true. In the season of 2000, Henderson played in 92 games for the Mariners, hitting .238, .362, .327. He also hit a home run in his first game with the Mariners and gave us an iconic call from the man himself, Dave Niehaus. Obviously, Rickey Henderson stole more bases than anybody in baseball history, and it's crazy to think that over his 25-year career, Henderson at one point played for the Mariners. It's easy to forget about, but it's true. He did play for the Mariners at one point. Obviously, he spent most of his career in Oakland, otherwise he just had a bunch of random stops along the way with the Yankees, the Padres, the Mets, Boston, the Dodgers, Anaheim, Seattle, and Toronto. 3 years after he played for the Mariners, he ended his career with the Dodgers at the age of 44. The Mariners had him in his age 41 season. And the fact that Rickey Henderson played for the Mariners is always so interesting because he is one of the greatest players of all time. Now let's talk about the trade that we talked about at the beginning before I go on to the guy that I had no idea played for the Mariners until just a few days ago. I'm not gonna lie, this last person surprised the heck out of me. But David Ortiz, or at the time when he was with the Mariners, David Arias, was with the Mariners for a few years. From 1994 to 1996, the Mariners had David Ortiz before trading him to the Minnesota Twins. I just want to put it into perspective really quick that at the same time in their minor league system, the Mariners had David Ortiz and Jason Varitek in the minors. And Ortiz was good with the Mariners when he was there, but he never hit more than 18 home runs in a season. His first year with Minnesota, he hit 31. The Mariners traded David Ortiz for Dave Hollins. He was a third baseman for the Twins at the time. Now, Dave Hollins just played 1 year with the Mariners, where he played in only 28 games. He hit .351, .438, .479 with the Mariners in that one season with 3 home runs. And after that, Dave Hollins was gone, and David Ortiz was on his way to the Hall of Fame. Of course, I'm super glad to see that David Ortiz had played in the Mariners organization because it gave us one of the most iconic David Ortiz pictures in the world. This one right here with his tongue stuck out. That picture is just so good. But could you imagine if the Mariners had David Ortiz and Edgar Martinez on the same team, the two best DHs in baseball history playing together? That would have blown my mind. I don't know where they would have played him. Ortiz would have played first base, probably more so than Edgar playing third, but yeah, that's just kind of how it would have worked, and they would have been such a good team. You don't need me to tell you that David Ortiz went on to a Hall of Fame career. Obviously, it's been talked about a lot, and to think the Mariners could have just had one more Hall of Famer, man, it hurts to see that he was there. And finally, Rich Goose Gossage apparently was a Mariner at one point in 1994 at the age of 42. I literally had no idea that he had been a Mariner until I read out of a trivia book for some reason that I got off of Amazon. Hey, if you want that trivia book, you can click the link down below and buy it there, and it helps support the channel. It's an affiliate link. We'd appreciate it. But I straight up had no idea that Goose Gossage had been a Mariner at one point. Obviously, Gossage was really good throughout his career, being one of the lockdown closers in the game. He wasn't great for the Mariners, but he also wasn't that bad. He pitched in 47 1/3 innings with a 4.18 ERA and an ERA plus of 117. Obviously nowhere near his career norms, but just the idea that Rich Gossage was at one point a Mariner is so weird to me, so foreign. I had absolutely no idea. I mean, I wasn't born yet, but still, I had no idea that going back, he actually played in half of a season for the Mariners. A lot of the guys on this list I just forgot were Mariners until relatively recently, and there's still a lot that we could talk about, like Carlos Quentin, kind of a smaller name, but he was a Mariner at one point as well. Did you know that all of these guys were Mariners at one point? Leave in the comments below if we stumped you with any of them, and we also have a couple trade ideas the Mariners could make on the screen now. We appreciate you guys watching this one, and go Mariners!